We live and breathe technology. For 20 years, converting challenges into opportunities, ideas into reality, empowering your business to change the lives of the millions, making it smarter, sustainable, and way more connected. With the power of digital technology, Intellias.
Roman Reznikov, Vice President of Delivery at Intellias. You're a PhD in economics, Master of Science in Finance. Your CV is longer than my arm. It's great to have you here, Roman.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, great to have you here. Obviously, Intellias is a high-level and international technology provider, and I know that you guys are focusing a lot right now on asking the question of how businesses can thrive by using generative AI. And it's a really interesting topic because when I speak to organizations within the industry at the moment, I get the feeling at least that many organizations are aware of generative AI. Many individuals are using ChatGPT. I think that's like the most obvious example of generative AI. But many organizations are I get the feeling that they are very much in the starting pits of just trying to understand how their businesses can thrive by using generative AI. And you know, on one hand, we are very early in this because ChatGPT, that kind of launched the AI summer, is only like 9 months old. But on the other hand, AI and AI products have been developed for many years, of course. So I want to just kind of start off today, Roman, by asking you, from your perspective, you speak to organizations on a daily basis. What feeling are you getting today of how far ahead companies are in their thinking of generative AI? Are most of them at the starting pits, or like many of them advanced, or like where are companies generally today, and how serious are they taking generative AI?
Yeah, so that's an interesting question because right now we're observing that you can find companies in two different parts of the scale. Like one company is they do not consider generative AI at all, or some of them they may even restrict it for the employees, for example, using ChatGPT.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, for privacy reasons.
Yeah, for privacy, for ethical reasons, for other stuff. So basically, this is not on their radar. But for other companies, they put all in for generative AI because specifically for smaller companies, they see in generative AI opportunity to disrupt the market and become one of the market leaders. So they just trying to find the way how they can use generative AI in their products. We also see that some of the companies, they are interested in generative AI and they rather have no clue how to use it, or they're trying to use in cases where probably they don't need to use it really. So that's interesting to observe. It's very hard to say average of the market because you can find companies on both sides of the scale. While we see some patterns that larger companies, larger enterprises, they more look in generative AI as something that could improve performance or reduce the cost internally. While smaller companies or startups, small medium business, they rather look at generative AI tools as something that could bring them on top of the market and bring some competitive advantage on the market that they play. So that's our observation so far.
Yeah, it's interesting. So what you're saying is bigger companies, if they do give a focus to generative AI, is basically to figure out how they can cut costs.
Exactly. Yeah.
Whereas smaller companies, challenger companies, are then trying to figure out how they can use this tool to be disruptive in the market.
Yeah, mostly this kind of observation we see on the market. Yeah, that's right.
And so Roman, you mentioned as well, some companies are being reluctant to even look at the generative AI products and tools. Is this a sure way of being disrupted, do you think? How important do you think generative AI products will be in the near future? And how important are they today,
Yeah. So I would say generative AI as well as other technologies that were on top of the hype in different moment of time, like blockchain some time ago, they do help to solve certain number of problems or challenges more efficiently and sometimes they help companies to differentiate, but that is not something that companies should use like in all circumstances. So we had a couple of requests from our clients where like we honestly said, guys, you don't need it. It would not help you or would not solve your problem, or your problem could be solved with other tool set which is more efficient, or like the solution is already on the market. So from one side, it provides like a lot of new opportunities and interesting ideas that you can implement, specifically in like area of personalization and some like visual content. But from another side, like we still see that, you know, like not all companies, they know how to use it and how to like really solve the problems that they have in their business. And that's why, you know, like we spend a lot of time like together with the client to understand, okay, whether this idea is feasible, whether this is something that is already on the market, like whether someone on the market is already using this like generative AI and the way how our clients want to use it. And that's basically, you know, like help us to direct our customers into the right direction where they can benefit, get maximum out of this technology.
Right. And so again, the current AI summer that we're in now kind of was kicked off by the launch of ChatGPT in December of 2022. And, you know, it was this massive eureka moment that that people got when they tried out ChatGPT for the first time. What are some of the most interesting use cases that you've seen to date in the field of generative AI since the launch of ChatGPT?
Yeah. So, like as we're actually like talking about closer to iGaming topics, so the one that like we are piloting right now is commenting of the sports event using GPT models. So like some like it's also works good for translation to different languages of some events, or like, you know, like provide a comments during like some like football matches or something like that with GPT-like models, both like audio and text-wise. So it's somehow helped to extend like this kind of content for the companies who are working in this direction, like betting companies, for example, sportbook companies. We also see a lot in like personalization, for example, like for creating some skins or for some visual for, let's say, slots, wherever like you need to change it like manually. Like we see a couple of implementation where it depends on the user and user preferences. You can actually see a bit different design, which could be more relevant to your profile or you like or prefer. So that this kind of personalization. We also observed a couple of experiments in creating like virtual like opponent in some games. It's not only casual games, but also could be real-time money games where you can actually play like in poker or something, like with some visual avatar, which could be generated by Gen AI toolset. So those couple of the direction that we see is of interest right now. Also, it's good for analytical purposes. For example, to detect people with addiction to gaming. And also, like one of the experiment we've seen, it's kind of combination of like GPT model plus data science, where like using data science, like we can identify by behavior of the person that he or she might has addiction. Plus, we like in certain moment of time, if you have certain trigger, there might be some chatbot which you need to like answer a set of questions, and depends on the answers, it may help to make a decision whether the person has addiction or not, and like whether to allow to continue gaming or not, because in some legislation, basically you may not play if you have addiction, or you just need some making pause in the game, and etc. etc. So basically that kind of tool is also helpful to identify cases like this, as well as fraud detection or money laundering. So that could be also an area where that works quite well, but still this is on the edge of generative AI and just AI or data science tool set. So it's like very close topics.
Yeah. On the responsible gambling front, there is there are two companies particularly that are like pioneering how to detect kind of potentially harmful play through the use of AI. There's a Kindred group, and they have committed themselves. It's a publicly traded company, and they have committed themselves to eliminate harmful gambling by the use of AI. And then there is another company called Entain, who have also launched their ARC system, which is doing something similar as well, which is detecting potential harmful play. But so here's the interesting thing with Kindred. They launched this tool about 2 years ago now, 2 or 3 years ago. And they set out this very ambitious goal then to eliminate all harmful gambling. And then Entain, who launched a similar system, they got asked as well the question, like, are you also going to use this tool to eliminate all harmful gambling? But they made a really interesting point and observation, is that it is really hard to eliminate all harmful gambling without also generating a lot of false negatives, false positives. The problem, say that you would kind of turn up the sensitivity of this tool, you would also generate a lot of false positives, so people who do not show signs of harmful play, but the AI is just kind of like falsely pointing this out. So far, Kindred, they have been, in these 2 years, they have been able to kind of lower the revenue from harmful play somewhat, but they haven't been able to eat into it that much yet, and supposedly because they also don't want to generate these false positives. So I would assume that this is like a really difficult question to solve, right?
And that's actually the pitfall that many companies face, where you may have like a brilliant idea how to use generative AI, but then during the realization you understand, okay, this is not that straightforward. And that's why, like whenever we work with some of our clients and customers in this direction, we usually go with some small experiments and prototypes, because, like investing a lot in certain direction and understanding later on that, okay, that's not that fancy as it supposed to be, like it might be quite costly for the customer. So yeah, that's not very straightforward solution, and it's definitely not that easy to implement.
No, for sure. So in general, with the generative AI and the LLMs that we see, what are some of the limitations of this approach to AI in general? Do you think that these models will become more and more advanced, you add more and more parameters and so on, and eventually it will be able to answer any, like the most advanced questions that you can possibly ask it? Or do you think it also have some limitations to how advanced these tools can become?
I think I would expect basically the growth more not the language model itself, rather than application which use these language models. And I'm expecting to see it in our daily activity with some office tools, or like with the tools that we use like on everyday basis. From like large language models, basically you have two main limitations. One is like this balance of creativity and like preciseness of the model. Some of them, like, they sound like a robot, but they provide you very clear and structured answers, but you clearly understand, okay, this is not a human being.
Right.
While others, they are more creative, and sometimes like they provide
hallucinations.
Some like deviations from the reality in terms of their answers, but like that they sound more natural, and like you feel that, okay, that's more realistic. And you need to find a balance, okay, which one I prefer. Like GPT model is very creative, and like it's good for some like creative stuff, but probably if you would like try to use it in healthcare or any other direction, that might like be quite risky. From another side, the weak side is basically what kind of data set you use for those GPT models. And you need to understand that, for example, if you have like poor data, the outcome of those like usage of GPT model, like any language model, would be not that efficient. And also one of the new roles that I see in some companies which are heavily using GPT models in their business, or like large language models in their business, they have kind of data validators, so the people who can somehow it's not even data engineering, so it's the goal is not even the structure of the data, but rather validate that, okay, like we don't have some data that may somehow corrupt the answer of like chatbot or tool that we are going to use. So that's kind of it. Plus, yeah, so like, you know, like majority of GPT, like majority of generative AI models, they use some of the existing content to create the new content. Like visual, like existing visual to create the new one, existing like text or information to create the new one. And that may also like create situation where like the quality of the content would like go down, because basically one generative AI model would use another generative AI model content, you know, like, and that might be repeatable in certain states. So that's my feeling and belief. But in terms of how this could be used and the like number of applications, I think it's gonna be growing, and you know, like it might make our life a bit easier in some cases.
Yeah.
That I expect.
And what do you think we have ahead of ourselves now? So we are still at a time where most organizations are not falling back on the use of AI. It feels like, again, most companies are just trying to figure out the space, let's say. Do you think organizations in the near future, let's say, will start falling more and more back on AI? And where do you think the development is heading? What are like some obvious kind of like disrupting use cases for AI if we look at any given organizations today?
Yeah, I think organizations will start using it more and more. Like I would split this into two parts. Of one part is like usage of AI by individuals in the business context,
right?
Which is like we see in different copilots and like a different other tool set. Like for example, in software engineering, we see already like heavy usage of copilots by software engineers, and basically that helps to like boost productivity and the performance. And we right now investing inside of our organization quite a lot in this direction, you know, because we see a certain potential in the stream. And another side, basically how organization use this in the business or like enhance their products. And in this field, I also believe that we would see like certain boost in upcoming months or like maybe a couple of years, because we see the development of ecosystems around it. So you don't need, like previously it was like you need to think how to connect some of your applications by APIs, and you know, like make some customizable development within like your company. And that was like, I mean, that required like certain level of complexity. But nowadays we see like large hyperscalers like Google, Microsoft, AWS, and some others. They start introducing like their products in their cloud environments. And for companies, it will be easier and easier to like build their own applications like from Lego blocks. So you don't need like, you know, like to over-engineer the solution. You can just take something already pre-ready solution, make some small customization to address your business needs. And I think that will boost a lot the usage of such tool set in future by the business.
Right. And, you know, I suppose some people using ChatGPT for the first time were amazed and saw the potential of how this can benefit themselves and their organizations, whereas the second cohort of people used ChatGPT for the first time and felt terrified, right? Because maybe their own jobs will be disrupted and so on. Do you see certain jobs and titles, positions being disrupted? Or do you think that pretty much all existing work can just leverage ChatGPT and other tools to do their job better? Or will there actually be some titles that will not exist in the future, do you think?
So it's hard to, like, I do believe that sometimes titles would not exist in the future, but that's not only about ChatGPT or any other like generative AI technology, just because, like, you know, our business environment is changing, and the jobs that we had like 20 years ago, probably some of them not really relevant for the moment. So yeah, we've had a couple of the cases where the solutions that we implemented for our clients, they created a risk for their own employees even.
Right.
And like I like the sample of one of our customers who created a role called kind of ethical engineer, AI ethical engineer within the company, where the goal was that any tools that would be used, generative AI or AI tool set that would be used by the company, it shouldn't like leave someone without job. It should improve the performance. It should like make people more efficient, but it shouldn't substitute fully certain roles. And I think that this kind of solution is like pretty sustainable, and that's something that I would suggest organization to follow. So like the first thing that you might like think about, whatever you like using AI or generative AI tool set within your company, okay, I can cut down the cost because, you know, like I would not need some people. But I think this is a wrong position, and that would actually create some resistance of adoption of this. And we've seen like those strikes in Hollywood and filming industry. And
that's where the big strikes.
Yeah, and that's something that I think organizations should avoid, and just thinking through generative AI as something that could help their employees and make their life like easier, not something that could actually substitute them fully.
Yeah. But at the same time, though, I mean, the most obvious use case is, say, chatbots, customer support. And if you create a good enough chatbot that can solve, say, 90% of all customer support errands, naturally, you would only need 10% of the workforce. So, I mean, there's still cases where employees will be affected. I mean, it's inevitable, it seems like.
Yeah, I would say that those cases, it's like where employees would need to transform their job.
Right.
And talking about support, what we've seen that it helped to scale. Still, like you need like people to address some of the cases. And for some of the people, for example, when service desk L1 support, sometimes like they shifted to L2 support level because, okay, they've seen that some of the tasks they could be executed by AI or like chatbot. And the people who were working on those positions, they were just like considered by the company for the upskills to like L2, L3 support, let's say. So I think that that's kind of the way how you can actually transform the jobs of some of your employees, introducing new tool set. But still, you need to understand that even now, like I haven't seen like fully substitution of L1 support to help desk support with GPT. I mean, I've seen a couple of cases that they were horrible in terms of customer service. So that's something that I wouldn't suggest to do if you want to build like really great customer experience. Still, you need some human touch here.
That's right. And another area that's interesting to talk about within the last LLM and generative AI push is the issue of privacy in AI. So, again, going back to kind of like the first reaction to ChatGPT is like, oh, we can do incredible things with this tool. But I think at some point people started waking up to the fact of like, wait, hold on a minute, like, what are we inputting into ChatGPT is like really sensitive stuff that we would never want anyone to get their hands on, right? And there's been like a couple of like alleged cases where like you input something into the LLM and then all of a sudden, this information spreads to other places and so on. What's the what's kind of like you guys' approach to privacy within to AI, and how do you combat these two factors? That like on the one hand you want to leverage the power of say ChatGPT, but then on the other hand, you can't disclose sensitive company information to this tool, but then you are losing out on using ChatGPT. Like how do you marry the two?
Yeah, still, we try to split this question into two parts. Like one part is like how individuals use ChatGPT. And here I think that the recommendation is pretty straightforward, same as like don't put some sensitive information on your Facebook, like. So it's just like talking about some security policies of the company. They just need to take into account that people may, like somehow misuse like ChatGPT or like any other similar tool. While another part is basically how corporations use generative AI or large language models. So, and here, like as I mentioned, majority of those solutions, they are built somehow on the like large cloud providers, like predefined block, where you can use already from the box like solution for like large language model, Plus, you can use your own data set. And the thing is that basically your own data set likely is already on some AWS, Google, or Microsoft Cloud. And through this, basically, you can actually manage how your data is used and like, like you're the owner of the data, and basically it's pretty the same approach as many companies do in their like majority of their like other business operations. So yeah, that's probably the answer. Like it's bad idea probably to put something in like public chat GPT, some business sensitive information, and it may create certain risk for the company, but whatever, that's something customly built. You have your own applications which use your own data set, just like you connect this to large language model as part of cloud set. That's like reasonable from the security perspective.
Yeah, good. I heard another interesting solution to this problem: how to use ChatGPT with sensitive information without ChatGPT without this information being able to be used by someone else. So someone create a plugin where every time you mention the company name, or every time you mention a name or like something that is relevant to your company that can tie you into the company, the plugin will change the name to something else, feed it into a GPT, and then the answer gets fed back into the plugin that converts these words into the right words, and then gets fed back to the employee. And it's like problem solved.
That's interesting solution. Yeah, I'm not sure it solved the problem, but yeah, sounds creative.
Part of them, at least,
Yeah.
at least some of them. Yeah. Interesting. So Roman, obviously, like I mentioned at the beginning, the companies that I speak to, some of them are creating like task force to like understand the current landscape of generative AI. What are the current tools? What are the current possibilities? What are the current options? So that organizations can get an understanding of what decisions they may take in this field. However, these are usually task forces that are made up of people who are not necessarily AI experts or and so on. They might be AI enthusiasts or interested in the field, but all they can do is do some basic research, let's say. Whereas Intellias, what you guys do, if I understand it correctly, is that you can act as that intermediary coming into an organization, having those discussions with the organizations to understand what approach they should take and what approach they shouldn't take in their approach to AI. So can you talk a bit more about kind of like some perhaps interesting use cases that Intellias have produced in this field so far? Like what is, have you come up with something interesting?
Yeah, sure. So one of the first solutions that we start doing for our customers is basically we're related exactly for the support. It's something that was very obvious. Secondly, like we were start implementing AI solution for internal process automation, intelligent automation. It was already practiced in our team, like where we helped our clients to automate some business processes, and we just like start adding like some AI solutions in the certain areas where that makes sense. From the interesting one, there was like one of the implementation, there was like assessment of different mentions of the company in different public media, and also associated with this comments and social networks of like that's like large company which were like pretty well known, and they were like, for them it's important to see the temperature of their brand on like public space. So basically like we were assessing on different sources like Facebook, Twitter, or some other media, and we were assessing not only the article but also about like the comments of the people, and we actually can show them how different actions or different like public presence impacts on their brand, and like what works positively and negatively, etc., etc. So they were like thinking about their PR strategy, taking into account this input. We had a couple of implementations in automotive space, basically some like assistance for drivers, for truck drivers. Like mostly it was about like how to minimize consumption of the fuel. So like that was also kind of recommendation engines that we implemented. We were also using similar things in agri-tech domain, but that was kind of on the age of generative, like on like AI and like large language models or something like that, which were kind of depends of multiple factors, and like we helped to learn we help neural network to learn different patterns of how different crops are growing in vertical farms, and give some recommendations to like the owners of the farm, so they can actually make the choice. You may like invest more in some like light or something like that, and basically it gives you some probabilities and recommendations what you may achieve in terms of like outcomes of this investment. So that's kind of usage we did. We used it in iGaming already a couple of times. So like personalization, as I mentioned, like how we can adjust the outlook of the game depends on some preferences or previous choices of gamer or player. We had this experiment right now, it's still pilot, to try to understand like addiction of certain people. We had this kind of project where we helped company to make online comments of different sports events, and like add like better experience to their like betting system they have. And yeah, mostly it was like online tutorials or some like help wherever someone has a certain issue with like the game or navigation. It also helped or suggest like some tips, or you can actually chat with in this direction. Yeah, so in iGaming space, we see it mostly in two directions. It's like visual content and like contextual help. So that's two cases that we observe in the most in this field.
A lot of game suppliers that create the slot machines, for example, are using tools like Midway, for example, to create the visuals of the game, and that has helped a lot of game developers to be able to increase their output, basically. Is there more ways to use these type of tools in a more efficient way than you're saying? Like so right now the designers are just using Midway as you use ChatGPT or whatever, like Midway, and then they create the assets and it goes into the game. Are there ways to make this more efficient, this process, or to improve it somehow, or like?
Yeah, it's very depends actually right now on the architecture of some online casinos, because some of them, they're quite flexible and they just like allow you easily create, like add the skin, and basically you can change the complete outlook of your game. But some of them, they're like probably like they're older, and in order to change the outlook, you need to basically to do some like significant changes in the code. So the one where architecture is quite flexible is actually quite easy, because like the case where what I said, it was like several presets which applied in different cases when different users are joining, depends on like their like characteristics of their game and some other like their previous awards, history of the games, preferences, that might apply different presets, and that will be unique. I mean, so each user might get some unique experience and some unique visual playing those games. But in order to enable this, there was like pretty tough work previously to this to like make certain architecture of like these slots and like casino. It's not always like that. So probably companies should think about like such scenarios, whether their like solution are flexible enough to enable those generative AI. The same like those assistants, they're just not always fit into what is already there, and like you need to redo a lot in order to use them. So the one who has more flexible architecture like wins right now because of like this kind of capabilities.
So you're saying essentially, let's say like the first wave of leveraging generative AI tools in the world of game production was used to use Midway in order to produce graphical assets faster. Whereas like now what is happening, as you're saying, is on the personalization front, where games can be changing depending on your personal profile,
exactly,
depending on your architecture of the game.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's kind of more where things are heading now, the personalization front and so on. Do you see more examples of like particularly within personalisation within online casinos? So we
Yeah.
have the games themselves. Like, do you see other examples?
Yeah, so we've seen like that were more on experiment level. So for
Yeah.
example, we see a couple of companies, they try to use some kind of metaverse for like lobbies for online casinos and something like that. And for those lobbies, you may actually try to use some generative AI for creating your own avatar, or that also like might be used for creating a virtual opponent in some games like poker. So you may use like avatars and something like that just like from your photo, it may create some like I don't know, like good character that you can play with in this virtual space. I can't say this is like super widespread right now, but we see a couple of experiments that looks pretty interesting, and I think that's like bringing some like gambling games and real-time money games closer to some casual games, so where like experience might be pretty close.
Yeah. Insane. And we spoke about this just before we started the recording here, but as a layman here, I would just assume, one of the biggest, or probably the biggest challenge that operators are facing today is to stay compliant. So you have 100 different regulations with 100 different rule sets, which means that all your marketing campaigns and so on needs to there's a lot of headache that goes into making sure that all your campaigns are compliant and your operation is compliant, because if you make one mistake, you can potentially face millions of euros in fines. And I would assume that if you would be able to take the rule sets, the regulations, all the historical fines from all the regulators, feed it into an AI model, and then you train it so that it understands what campaigns are compliant and what campaigns are not. And so let's say, for example, I want to create a marketing campaign in Colombia, for example. I should be able to just ask this compliance AI model, is my campaign compliant? Wouldn't that be, or do you think that is within the scope and within the reach of what generative AI can do today? Or do you think perhaps that is a thing of the future? Or what do you think of a solution like that?
I think this solution is quite feasible, but it might have multiple pitfalls, same to find addicted people, so that might like have some deviations. But I think that this is kind of $1 billion solution. So the one who would design it will definitely solve a big market problem as we see it.
And then that will also kind of feed into the question of trust, I suppose, because let's say that you do create a AI model that focuses on answering questions, whether your campaign is compliant or not according to the regulation. Then you also have to put trust that the answer that the AI model gives you is correct,
Exactly.
right? And like this is potentially also a concern today, right? Like, how much can you trust the AI?
The problem is that the cost of the mistake of such model is quite high. So whatever you do, like your math exam in ChatGPT and you have some mistakes, it's like not a big issue, but like any mistake here would cost company a lot. So I think that this is important to make sure that this model is less creative, rather precise in their judgment.
Yeah, for sure. And so, there are some obvious examples of tools that are used today by individuals. We mentioned ChatGPT, or Midway, so on and so forth. What are, for you as an expert, what are some of the most interesting generative AI tools that you've seen to date, except for the obvious ones then?
So a lot of engineers are right now using GitHub Copilot and AWS Code Whisper. This is pretty powerful tool. Still, like engineers, they start using AWS Bedrock. It's like pretty new, like AI tool, as well as Microsoft OpenAI stack for some of the engineering solutions. I've seen a couple of cases, like right now Microsoft started introducing copilots to different office tools. So basically, like usual Bing is way more productive than it used to be before, and we expect to see more in like just office products like Microsoft Work, Microsoft PowerPoint. So this kind of tools would be really helpful. I just like, there was like pretty quite many different tools, and I have kind of screenshot of different tools, how to use them for different purposes. Just like, nothing pop up in my mind like out of this, because
what do you think about for example, like the next generation of ChatGPT would be like the what's it called, like agent GPT and those things, where basically the idea is that you ask the LLM a question. Say, for example, I want to organize an event for 20 people in Italy. Can you help me organize this event? We want it to be, whatever, a horse riding event or something. And then basically the agent GPT will split this question into like 10 different questions, answer all these questions, and then kind of put it together in a project. Let's say like it's the use of agents rather than just one question and one answer. It will be one question that leads to 10 questions, that leads to 10 questions eventually. So it's kind of like almost, you can imagine like a project management team that is working to solve a problem rather than one person solving the problem. Like, what do you think of like that approach? Perhaps
actually, such tools exist already. I think it's called AutoGPT or
AutoGPT.
AutoGPT. Yeah. So basically, do exactly like this, and arranging events. It was actually the case that I've seen. Like personally, I'm not a big user of it yet. But yeah, I know that kind of tasks, and I know that some of our BAs, they use it for like requirements creation or backlog creation. They provide some details, and basically it provides this kind of decomposition, and then for them it's just like they can easily go through this work breakdown structure and just like make some adjustments. So those kind of tools they used already. I think like from my perspective, like the tools like ChatGPT, they will grow the number of different plugins, which may, like make them very much versatile for different purposes. And that's already right now, this is already the growing ecosystem where we can see more and more plugins like this. There are also great tools, like you asked, and just like popped up in my mind later, like Perplexity AI. It's basically a good alternative of like ChatGPT, but it also provides some links to the sources where it takes information from, and it also helps for some scientific research, because like you can actually rely on some data, and it's like less creative. And also Firefly AI, which is very, like, I use it for like transcribing my like meetings and calls. You just add it to the meetings and you get like perfect meeting notes structured, and like it's very good to navigate through them. So those kind of tools are super helpful for now. So yeah, that's my view on this.
I'm just looking forward to the Microsoft Copilot, so I don't have to reply to my emails anymore. That's my thing. So I had a conversation with someone, and we talked about what is the best way to achieve zero inbox. And so the concept of zero, it's like what all professionals strive for, when you have all the emails read and all the like no pending emails to reply to. And we talked about this, is the best way to reach a zero inbox is to just not reply to your emails. But then the question is, like, if you have Microsoft Copilot that can reply to your emails automatically, is that the solution to zero inbox, that you have to like minimize the emails that you have reply, or is that a source for infinite inbox, where I will get an email, the AI will reply to it, and then another AI will reply to that email, and you just get an infinite amount of emails flying back and forth through the AIs. What do you think, Roman? That big question.
Yeah, that's a good question. I just like remember like one case where I tuned, like, there was like I subscribed a ticket for like reimbursement of like one payment that I did, and like I didn't get the service, and they sent me automatic reply, and I tuned my mailbox to send automatic reply back to them, and then I forget about this for like a couple of months, and then I realized it was like I like my mailbox started crashing, and then I realized that I sent them like a million messages like back and forth, so we were sending to each other, like and I think I crashed their system as well, because like they have like multiple numbers of this ticket. So and that's could be, but I mean still the common sense is there, and
you would hope that the AI will resolve the issues rather than sending a million emails back and forth. So a final question for today, Roman, is What do you have any like predictions in the coming 1 to 2 years in the field of AGI, in the field of generative AI? Where are things heading? How do you like how big of an impact will the future kind of development in this world have on the way we work and the tools we use and so on? What's your predictions for the next 1 2 years?
Yeah, so let's split probably in also three buckets. Like first, like it's like our personal usage of generative AI tools, and I think that would help us to be more efficient. How we work with the mailbox, like even creating the PowerPoint slides. If I look like in multiple companies, they have a lot of people whose core work is like doing like PowerPoint presentations, and usually this is like the boring presentation with the same stock images, and like the content looks not that great. While having Midjourney, having like Delhi, having open ChatGPT, you can actually create much more powerful content, but it doesn't mean that those tools will create it instead of you. They will just provide you like some like nice visuals, nice text in which you can use in those presentations. So the quality of the content, its variability, the speed of creating this content would improve a lot. So on the personal level, I would expect like more tools which help us with the meeting minutes, which help us with the mails, which help us with different other areas. That would not fully disrupt someone, but that would make it more like efficient. If you just use, like I still believe that in upcoming years, if you just want to fully generate PowerPoint presentation with any GPT tools without like involving the human being, I think the quality would be not that great. Secondly is how organizations do use those tools. I would probably expect more new products in B2B and B2C area. So like more personalized experience, more high quality content and high quality vision. Even for example, I believe if you go to website in certain moment of time, we may see that like if me and you would go to the same website, we may see a completely different website just because of like we have different experience and we may be from different countries, and those kind of personalization will also like play on consumer side. The same for the business, like B2B area. I think business could be more efficient and just create some new products which were not on the market. So in general, like if I would try to evaluate the impact, I would like see improvement of performance and improvement of end user consumer experience due to like better personalization and more high quality visual content, which gonna be cheaper, like easier to access and more unique. So not the same like picture of happy people on multiple PowerPoint presentations. So that's probably two directions that I would outline in this field. In a long-term perspective, I see also impact on the science. I just remember how I did my like PhD thesis, and that time there was no ChatGPT, unfortunately. And I it's not that like I could do like my doctoral degree just like through the prompts to ChatGPT, but I think that would be very helpful to find information, to analyze information, to make like researchers more like productive and efficient. So that may also give some boost to the science field, but probably that's not in a very short-term perspective. So yeah, that's probably my my forecast for this.
Brilliant. And Roman, finally as well. So we talked earlier about Intellias and the help that you provide to companies at the moment, particularly within the iGaming industry. Can you just do a quick kind of elevator pitch, like which companies and kind of like what type of problems is Intellias able to help with at the moment? Like who should contact you?
Yeah, we mostly work with small, medium business and large enterprises, and basically we work on their first style business problems that companies might have. We can help to boost productivity inside of the company, and we can actually help with the analysis of existing products and services on the market, and think how generative AI as well as any other like modern technology could help our clients and customers like to improve their product and like their business KPIs. Right now we are making, like if we talk about the company in general, like we are focusing on automotive, retail, fintech and telecom industries, but also we incubate like new industries and like how to implement different technologies in industries like iGaming, agriculture, travel industry, logistics. So we are like making experiments together with our customers and clients and see where like we can bring them value in this direction.
Brilliant. I'm looking forward to follow you guys. We've been working together for a while with your colleague Olga and others. It's been a pleasure. And thank you so much for coming by here today as well, Roman, sharing your perspectives and thoughts and so on. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So, awesome.